Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me in this webinar on how BIM can reinvent South Africa's infrastructure development. My name is Selvan Murugan. I am a digital practice leader at Zotari, which is a leading consulting and advisory firm in South Africa. I have over 23 years of experience in engineering and consulting with a background in industrial automation. I'm a tennis player and a strong Nadal fan. So, vamos Rafa. So, to put things in perspective, I am definitely not a BIM specialist, but support the principles and the general direction of BIM. I am passionate about digital technology and digital futures, and BIM, with its associated technologies, plays a significant role in my world. So, if you have not heard about the South African Infrastructure Fund, it is important that you hear this story today. It is a fund announced by President Cyril Ramaphosa in 2018 to build on the South African government's efforts to transform our public infrastructure development. An allocation of 100 billion rand has been earmarked for the fund over a period of 10 years. The Infrastructure Fund is intended as government funding and support for the co-financing of blended finance programs and projects. So essentially, it is a transformation initiative. The fund's sole purpose is to fundamentally transform South Africa's approach to the financing of infrastructure projects and to reduce the current fragmentation of infrastructure spend to ensure more efficient and effective use of resources and improve the speed and quality of delivery. Given the limited government finances, which have been worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic, the strategic importance of infrastructure as a lever cannot go unnoticed. And stimulus for economic recovery and growth has come to the fore. This constrained financial or fiscal environment limits the availability of investment resources, and there is thus a greater need for government to work together to create an enabling environment for effective partnerships with the private sector, international funders, and local capital markets to enable the leveraging of additional resources. The Infrastructure Fund opens opportunities to partner with the private sector as well as international funders. The signing of a Memorandum of Agreement between Infrastructure South Africa, the National Treasury, and the Development Bank of South Africa seeks to bring together key stakeholders in our construction industry, create a financing facility and management oversight for blended infrastructure projects. The responsibilities of Infrastructure South Africa will be to coordinate the infrastructure value chain through the development, assessment, management, project preparation, implementation, and monitoring of a comprehensive infrastructure pipeline and related investment for South Africa. The responsibilities of National Treasury will be to facilitate government's contribution of the funding by putting in place defined budgeting processes for the Infrastructure Fund. The obligations of the DBSA towards the Memorandum of Agreement will be to establish the Infrastructure Fund through a dedicated implementation unit housed in the DBSA, as well as to manage and administer the fund. Now, jointly, the signatories to this agreement are committed to continue to work together in line with the economic growth recovery imperative that requires infrastructure projects to be built more rapidly by supporting the successful establishment of the fund, ensuring the necessary structures are established and functional, and facilitating effective collaboration between the public and private sectors. The overall process needs to result in reducing the fragmentation of infrastructure spending, ensuring more efficient use of resources. So essentially, we need to do more with less, speed up project delivery, and improve the quality of delivery. Infrastructure delivery within South Africa is important to support the structural transformation of our unique economy and to stimulate the economy directly and indirectly through input industries serving the domestic, regional, and global markets. This, colleagues, requires a strong and vibrant domestic construction industry capable of not only servicing the domestic demand, but also capable of exporting its expertise and products. Infrastructure, and indeed the construction industry, is seen as a vehicle to drive our post-COVID recovery as a nation. As described in previous slides, we have established funding mechanisms, funding policies, and fund administration bodies, as well as the project execution arm. The missing link is the mechanism which will be employed to meet the goals of the MOA. So, the question is now, how do we do it? How do we reduce the fragmentation of infrastructure spending? How do we ensure more efficient use of resources? How do we speed up project delivery? And how do we improve quality of that delivery? Is there a recognized process available to make this happen? You bet, and you probably guessed what the answer is. BIM is fast becoming the international standard for the infrastructure and construction sector, enabling greater collaboration and movement of capabilities across borders. It is predicted that BIM will become the standard for delivering the world's public infrastructure projects. The South African construction sector, including its clients, is highly fragmented in its process and learning at the moment. To a large extent, it relies on ad hoc improvements from one project to another. Therefore, an industry-wide approach is needed to sustain long-term investment, capability, and capacity development. BIM can be adopted to deliver many of the outcomes of the Infrastructure Fund and the goals of the MOA. Some of these are greater productivity of the sector by making use of digital technology, improved output quality of public-built assets, adapting to a more sustainable built environment, one that supports the challenges of the current climate change and the need for a circular economy, increased transparency of construction performance, and financial information is critical. New opportunities for sector growth through exports and additional service offerings, stronger and digitally skilled sector, attracting talent and investment, adding to the growth of what we now call the digital economy. So BIM can be thought of as digital construction. It is similar to the technology and digital process revolution that entered the manufacturing sector in the 1980s and 1990s, with the primary goals being to improve productivity rates and output quality. It combines the use of 3D modeling with whole life asset and project information to improve collaboration, coordination, and decision-making when delivering and operating public assets and infrastructure. Also addresses the long overdue digitization of our construction industry that enables us to control and manage an unprecedented volume of digital data and information. For public clients and governments, this translates to more being built and maintained for the same or less public funding, lower risk of cost overruns on public infrastructure projects, improved project understanding and transparency, and greater stakeholder engagement. Building information modeling is most certainly not a new trendy methodology. It is fast becoming very, very important. Many organizations, including several governments, see it as the new standard framework for the industry. This means firms must adapt to it, and universities must start teaching it to their students. Several countries, such as Australia, the UK, and Singapore, have now mandated the use of building information modeling in many of their projects. BIM has been internationally standardized through the ISO 19650 suite of standards, making the processes accessible and available to everyone. The US was an early adopter from 2003, and now almost 75% of US firms use BIM technology. Germany, France, South Korea are now all adopting the BIM methodology and standards. Public sector, which this webinar is based on, can benefit from the adoption of BIM in three distinct stakeholder roles, and they are as follows. As a public procurer or an infrastructure owner concerned with project delivery, that is the engineering and delivery of both assets. As a public infrastructure and owner concerned with operations and the maintenance phase, so basically focus on the use of public both assets. As a public policy officer concerned with the development of legislation, policy, regulation, or standards to improve performance of the sector or the built environment. For the public sector, BIM benefits translate to economic benefits, such as better value for public money during the delivery phase and improved quality of assets, infrastructure, and services during the use of the built asset. For a policymaker concerned with construction sector performance, these economic benefits can be aggregated to a national level to support increased levels of productivity, for example, GDP, as well as measured exports. In addition to these benefits, BIM can support environmental benefits, such as more accurate material ordering, leading to less wastage or less waste to landfills, and optimized simulation of energy analysis, leading to lower energy demands from the built environment. Social benefits can be delivered to the public infrastructure owner by utilizing BIM effectively in public planning and consultation to build support for new or updated public infrastructure, such as highway placement, water containment features, or public building refurbishment. This public engagement can support public infrastructure that is well designed and aligned with the needs of the local community, resulting in improved social outcomes, such as better resource planning, greater use of public facilities or mapping, and protection of architectural historic heritage. Therefore, we can say that BIM offers economic, environmental, and social benefits across a range of public stakeholders who are different. There are many surveys which are now proving this. The BIM process can have a strong influence on project duration. One report, which documented construction practices over several years, found that in 2009, the average duration of BIM projects was 27% shorter than traditional projects. In 2012, BIM had widened that gap to 37%. This suggests that the advantages of BIM becomes more pronounced as users gain experience and know-how. One survey or another survey even estimates that BIM's data sharing ability alone is enough to reduce the duration of a single project by as much as 7%. This is one of the main reasons that the development of collaborative BIM processes and communications infrastructure to improve information sharing within projects is seen to be the most important area of BIM investment. Productivity gain is one of the major benefits of using BIM and is the top metric which organizations expect to improve when they adopt and invest in BIM. Primarily, BIM realizes this gain through its ability to minimize project management, foster communication and coordination, identify errors early, reduce rework, reduce costs, and improve quality. Internationally, BIM's reputation for boosting productivity has made it widely accepted as the best practice approach for delivering major projects. The UK government, for example, anticipates 20 to 30% reduction in the overall life cycle cost of its public sector assets by requiring the use of BIM on all infrastructure projects built after 2016. In the United States, one of the most tightly controlled construction sectors in the world, the number of building sector professionals using BIM has surged from 28% to 71%. As a lifecycle model, BIM begins in the early stages of a project. Designers are likely to benefit from fundamental changes to the design process and the greater certainty between design intent and the final construction and operation of the building. 69% of European organizations using BIM report that it improves the collective understanding of design intent, while 75% report that it improves multi-party communication and understanding, primarily from the greater ability to visualize and share information in 3D. As well as design and layout information, each project stakeholder has access to scheduling, financial, performance, and materials data from the beginning of the project. This ability to share and collaborate promotes design decisions that optimize the asset when it is cheap and easy to make changes, unlike in later phases where alterations can have significant construction and lifecycle costs. In the US, 57% of designers who use BIM say that they find the technology directly reduces the number of errors and omissions during the design phase of the project, greatly enhancing quality. BIM's information management processes also lead to high quality post-construction outcomes. The greatest advantages of public sector asset managers arises from a new ability to create and manage building and infrastructure assets faster, more economically, and with less environmental impact. Asset managers, owners, and occupants can optimize the building systems and performance for human comfort and safety, while minimizing environmental impacts and running costs during daily operation. At the end of an asset's life, BIM documents all the materials, recyclables, and any hazardous substances for the decommissioning team. In the US, almost 2/3 of organizations using BIM report a greater return on their investment, a figure that rises to 3/4 of organizations in Europe. Worldwide, BIM's positive impact on sustainable design, construction, and post-occupancy monitoring is given as a major driver in the decision to support and adopt the process. Construction professionals see productivity gains as a result of more precise design and services coordination, automated conflict avoidance, easier design interpretation, greater accuracy, and a few change orders. In 2010, an Australian analysis found that BIM's ability to detect and avoid conflicts prior to construction reduces unbudgeted construction changes by 40% and can save up to 10% of the entire value of a construction project when compared to a non-BIM project. Many construction businesses in the US have seen similar results, with 65% of contractors reporting that BIM processes effectively reduces rework, cost overruns, and missed schedules during construction. Now, BIM's sophisticated modeling capabilities also enable contractors to make much greater use of prefabricated materials and pre-assembled components, which have well-documented productivity and quality advantages. In the US, 81% of contractors say this is the single most important benefit of moving to a BIM-based construction model. So, let's take a look at what construction will look like in the future. We will have a client inputting his requirement into an artificial intelligence system, which then produces a digital model based on the input data. Now, this is really fascinating. This is then fed into common data environment, processed for construction through digital prefabrication, robotic assembly, 3D fabrication, fully automated supply chains, robotic construction, connected work sites, and connected construction equipment. Integrated operations and facilities management systems will provide feedback to optimize the asset as well as optimize the design algorithms for future designs. This, colleagues, is a future that is forming as we speak, and we need to build the capacity and capability in our country to play in this future. Our forward thinking will allow us to move into new digital ways of working, bolster our digital workforce, and contribute to the digital economy of the country. BIM can be the catalyst that the South African industry, as well as the construction industry, is waiting for. So, let's take, So BIM as a process with its associated requirements, people, systems, and technology, as I mentioned, can be the main catalyst for the South African construction industry to be able to do more with less However, a strategic path is required to be considered and embarked upon, similar to the paths carved out by more advanced nations. We will obviously need to do this at a scale and pace conducive to our current environmental constraints. But, colleagues, we need to start somewhere. BIM programs, as they are called, are essentially change management initiatives and also transformation initiatives, which require goals, resources, people, development, momentum, success, time, and investment. In order to align these elements, a tried and tested strategic framework to deliver robust and effective BIM programs are necessary. This strategic framework should provide a common approach to the introduction of BIM by the South African public sector. The UK BIM framework identifies the following four strategic areas of action that are important when developing BIM initiatives. The one is establishing public leadership. Second, communicating the vision and fostering BIM communities. 3, developing a collaborative framework among stakeholders. And 4, growing client and industry capability and capacity. Each of these 4 high-level areas contains specific actions for the public stakeholder to consider. We must establish public leadership to define the drivers, clear vision, and specific goals. These are often the first steps taken by public sector organizations to establish a basis for the concerted action for the BIM program. The value proposition is important to clearly explain why the public sector should provide its resources to support the wider adoption of BIM across private industry. It provides the required support for an investment request. We would do well, colleagues, to appoint a public sector sponsor or champion who has the appropriate level of seniority and responsibility to inform and influence others within the public sector organizations. Public sector BIM programs are encouraged to be developed to promote the formation of groups of industry stakeholders to share best practices and lessons learned. It is recommended to collaborate with other countries, those that have walked this path before, and encourage enlightenment and accelerate learning and knowledge sharing. Similarly, it is highly recommended to join established international and national networks to facilitate the transfer of knowledge. These best practice networks can efficiently disseminate information about BIM program across South Africa and across the industry's different disciplines and types of organizations. Regional or national user communities may be used to collect and share project experiences to improve capability development. Another recommendation is to include the development and implementation of a mass communication plan. This action would utilize multiple communication channels such as media publications, websites, conferences, and social media. The aim is to communicate to the entire value chain. It is highly recommended to assess and clarify the regulatory, procurement, and legal contracting arrangements between clients and suppliers facilitate the use of BIM and the exchange of digital information across the project and asset lifecycle. Action should consider the regulatory, procurement, and legal aspects, clarify the terms relating to intellectual property ownerships, obligations, and liabilities of suppliers, the purpose of information exchanges, and the roles and responsibilities for information management. The BIM program should require the use of a standards-based open data format for the exchange of information between the supply chain and the client. This format would be used in tendering, contracting, documentation to ensure a non-discriminatory definition for suppliers to comply with. This would also be consistent with our rules to ensure an open market to all suppliers and contractors. With possible data classification systems and data exchange formats should use existing standards. It is recommended that our national program does not seek to reinvent the wheel by developing new data exchange formats. The focus on introducing BIM projects and showcasing successes in the real world, delivering industry training and academic education, and embedding the shift to digital across the industry is business as usual. It is recommended that pilot projects are a useful way to test the collaborative framework, legal, data, and process standards, and to provide a practical demonstration of how BIM is to be implemented under the BIM program. The program could even consider awards events or case studies as a means of highlighting best practice to the industry. Pilot programs should be used to demonstrate improvements and support for the higher level goals. Colleagues, now much has been said in the last 30 minutes. It must be clearly understood that we as a country are at a crossroads when it comes to how we fund, manage, and procure public infrastructure projects. Our methods of doing this have not changed in decades. We should not expect different results. We fundamentally do not change established methods that results in over budget, late, poor quality projects. BIM is a technology which will allow our industry to be digitized, paving the path for us to improve the industry in ways previously unimagined. I now make a call to every one of you listening in today to support the call to grow digital in our business, support the call for BIM, silence the naysayers, and rebuild our country by bravely adopting BIM and all its technologies as a standard for infrastructure delivery. I would like to say thank you to the organizations and organizers of BIM Harambee for affording me this opportunity. Thank you and stay safe. Goodbye.